What if the truth you seek starts by admitting you might be wrong? Socrates didn't write a single treatise arguing for a fixed doctrine. He walked in, opened questions, and let people feel the tremor between what they think and what they can prove. He didn't claim certainty. He claimed clarity through dialogue. If you want to see how a method born in ancient Athens can hack through modern certainty, listen to a conversation that keeps asking, not delivering. Think of a question as a key. A lock appears wherever you defend your last answer. The Socratic method isn't about victory in a debate. It's about the patient, almost stubborn effort to strip away the layers of assumption until what remains is something like truth, or at least a cleaner version of it. He began with definitions, not to trap someone, but to test the consistency of a belief. Does it mean bravely facing danger, or doing the right thing even when fear grows louder than advice? SFX, chalk_scribble, 1. 5. There's a famous scene where a series of questions circles around a single word, justice. What does it mean to be just, to act justly, to call an act just? The definition kept shifting under the weight of each refinement. The goal wasn't to humiliate. It was to demonstrate that a vague claim can't stand when pressed if a belief dissolves under careful scrutiny. That's not a failure of the believer. It's a signal that the belief was too shallow to endure the light of rigorous thinking. Socrates linked the method to humility. If you think you already know what virtue is, you'll defend your picture with all the energy you possess. If you instead accept uncertainty as a starting point, you open space for better ideas to emerge. The dialectic becomes a kind of intellectual meutics, a midwifery of ideas where truth is, delivered not by assertion, but by the breathing, patient process of questioning. To the modern ear, this can sound like harmless pedantry, but it's anything but a dry game. It's a discipline of attention. Questions pull focus from the gloss and glare of slogans to the texture of they demand that you show your reasoning step by step, that you expose your blind spots, that you examine the consequences of your beliefs in real life. And they reveal where belief is simply a habit, comforting, familiar, but not necessarily true. Consider how we justify our daily choices. We tell stories about what matters: family, health, work, loyalty, but a Socratic inquiry would press. What makes these things valuable? Is the value intrinsic, or is it a projection of culture, mood, or fear of loss? The exercise isn't to tear down meaning. It's to find a sturdier, more defendable version of it. In practice, the method unfolds like a walk through a city of ideas. You start with a claim, then strip away the surface through a sequence of precise, humble questions. What do you mean by free will? What counts as evidence? How do you know you're not misreading your own experience? The questions aren't adversaries. They are tools for sharpening the blade with which you cut away superstition, prejudice, and habit. A key moment arrives when someone proposes a universal principle, a maxim that feels timeless and true. The Socratic reply is not to deny the claim, but to test its boundaries. Does justice apply in every case, even when it clashes with personal loyalties? Does equality apply in a society that prizes wealth or birthright? The aim is to reveal the conditions under which a principle holds, and to expose where it collapses. The twist, often overlooked, is that Socrates expected the conversation to fail in the sense of revealing ignorance more clearly, not to crown a firm, final answer. He did not pretend to know more than he did. He pretended to know less enough to risk a step forward, not enough to claim the entire map. The result is not despair, but a kind of cautious wonder. If we never outgrow the habit of questioning, we maintain a living, evolving map of truth rather than a fixed idol of certainty. There's a powerful analogy here. Think of science as a torch in a dark cave. Each experiment is a spark that lights a little segment of the wall. The Socratic method is the practice of moving the torch along, asking about what the light reveals, about what remains in shadow, about whether the light itself might be biased by where you stand. Truth, in this sense, is less a statue than a conversation with the self about what deserves to be believed next. But the method isn't a license to doubt every impulse into paralysis. It's a guard against dogma. It teaches us to articulate our beliefs with care, to anticipate objections, to define terms with precision, and to examine the practical consequences of our ideas. It's a way to turn knowledge into responsibility. If you claim to know something, you must be prepared to justify it to someone who can see your reasons from a different angle. Where does this lead in a world of fast takes and hot takes? It leads to a culture of dialogue, not monologue. It invites us to suspend the urge to win and to elevate the urge to understand. It invites us to be more curious than confident, more attentive to error than eager for agreement. And it preserves room for the unexpected. A question may not produce the answer you anticipated, but it may illuminate a path you hadn't noticed before. SFX, soft_step, 1. 2. The method also carries a quiet moral texture. It respects the autonomy of the other person as a source of insight, not simply as a foil to be defeated. When an interlocutor challenges your view, you don't retaliate with louder rhetoric. You re-express the idea, adjust your terms, and listen for the seams where meaning stretches or tears. This is how a conversation becomes a mutual search, not a competition. This is not a call to abandon conviction. It's a call to defend conviction with clarity, to ground belief in rigorous reasons, and to remain teachable even when the ground feels solid under your feet. The paradox is that the more confident you become in your ability to reason, the more you realize how much there is to learn. Confidence in this light becomes a steady flame rather than a blaze that blinds its own witnesses. SFX, quiet_heartbeat. 2. 5. A modern echo of Socrates is visible in critical thinking, in the habit of testing hypotheses, in the willingness to retract a position when new evidence arrives. The method translates into classrooms, courtrooms, boardrooms, even intimate friendships. It becomes a practical art. We ask, we listen, we refine. We admit what we cannot prove, and we carry on with a clearer, more precise sense of what needs further inquiry. The turning point comes when you recognize that truth isn't a trophy placed on a shelf. It's a living discipline, a practice that invites humility and courage in equal measure. If you can stand in the ambiguity of genuine inquiry and still choose to pursue clarity, you've already taken a step toward a deeper form of wisdom. The path isn't glamorous, but it is honest, and honesty compounds. Each honest question lays another brick in a structure sturdier than any quick answer. So how do you begin again today? Start with a definition you feel most resistant to defend. Step into a question you fear the answer to. Draw a map of the assumptions that carry that belief. Bring a friend into the process and ask them to challenge you as you challenge them. Notice where your reasoning frays, and leave room for revision without shaming yourself. The Socratic path isn't about slicing away identity. It's about freeing it from dogma so it can grow. The beauty is not in having all the answers, but in having the tools to explore them more honestly each time you return. The method makes thinking into a conversation you're willing to have with yourself, with others, with the world. It trains attention, humility, courage, and care, the quiet gears behind any genuine discovery. SFX, soft_closing_bell. 3. And so we return to the simplest, most radical insight. Truth is not a conclusion you reach and lock behind a door. It's a practice you sustain through questions. The moment you stop asking, you risk filling your mind with echoes. The moment you begin again, you allow space for better questions to emerge, and perhaps for a better understanding of what it means to live well. If you felt that ache for clarity, you felt Socrates' invitation afresh. He didn't promise a final map, only a method for drawing one with care. By questioning everything, you don't surrender truth to uncertainty. You keep truth honest, resilient, and alive. So stay curious, test boldly, and let every answer invite another question. The dialogue goes on, and that living doubt becomes your